Hello friends, how you doing? Patrick here. I'm going to make a short video today. Phantoms in the Brain by V.S. Ramachandran. V.S. Ramachandran. He's a PhD. He's a neuroscientist. Phantoms in the Brain. I'm going to be reviewing this book so that you don't have to read it. Or you can read it and then you can compare what you think about it. Either or. I'm hoping that it's interesting. I'm hoping I can go through this over the next week or two. I'm in the process of moving, so I'm in a bit of turmoil, but I'd like to just go through this. Now, it's funny because in 2020, I spent most of that year reading and reviewing and taking notes on studying books by famous atheists. That was Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, Richard Dawkins, and Christopher Hitchens, the four most well-known atheists of our time, I guess you could say, unless you want to include Yuval Harari, but he's kind of in a different category. But anyway, so yeah, I spent most of 2020 reading and studying those books, taking notes on them. And the funny thing is, the reason why I mentioned that is because I had no idea. I just picked up this book at random, and I had no idea that in the preface to this book, this author, Mr. Ramachandran, mentions at least 6 atheists as his inspiration. He mentions George Gamow, Stephen Jay Gould, Carl Sagan, Dan Dennett, Richard Dawkins, and Steven Pinker as his inspirations. And I know for a fact that all those guys are prominent atheists. So I'm thinking, oh, geez, I can't get away from this topic. I mean, the reason why I first studied the topic because I had an interest in it. I am a theist. I am a believer. I believe in God. I'm also a Christian. You could say that I'm a theist with a strong influence of solipsism to, it's a long story. But anyway, so here I am again facing the same topic. A guy who has been inspired by 6 well-known atheists and putting together his research findings on the brain. So we're pretty much back at square one. And that's, I just find it like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to see what he has to say. And most of the atheists that I've found, they fall into kind of distinct categories. You've got all these different type of atheists. I mean, some people are agnostic. They just have a comfort in sitting on the fence, or they have this smug feeling of being able to be not committed. You have some that are kind of like, I guess most of them you could call unresolved atheists, in that they are angry at God, and so all they want to do is talk about God in a negative sense. I call them unresolved atheists. Some are Messiah wannabes. I'd put Sam Harris in this category, where they want to one-up the sayings or achievements of Christ, and that's a whole other story. And I could go on, but anyway, they all have their own reasons for being an atheist. And so in this one, I'm just going to go through the notes that I took in the first chapter. The first chapter is called The Phantom Within, and his very first sentence in the book, the first sentence in the book, is that he associates a belief in God with an individual who has temporal lobe epilepsy. So you can see right away what his motivation is. He is likely wanting to associate, in an underhanded, analogous type of way, he wants to associate belief in God with some type of mental illness. And he's going to have his work cut out for him, because obviously that's not going to work. But this is where the very first sentence in the book goes. He says that he's been interested in evolution since the age of 8 or 9, which I find is a bit of a stretch, but fair enough. He said that he understood that sorry about that, that everything in the universe is based on chemical interactions. He considers himself eccentric. So he mentions God a number of times in the very first chapter. But the essence of the first chapter is that he readily admits he's not really sure how the brain works, which is an amazing thing for a neuroscientist to say. And he also discusses a very entertaining anecdote about why we smile one way when it's a natural smile and why we smile a different way when we're told to smile, like told to smile for a picture or something. And so he explains the different areas of the brain that control those two types of smiling. And I thought that was very insightful, very interesting as far as the neuroscience of the book goes. So it does have interesting stuff about the brain, which I'm hoping, that was the reason why I picked up the book. I said, well, I'm hoping it has interesting stuff about the brain. And this first chapter covers this idea about the different ways that we smile. And that is why I bought the book. I thought, hey, that's interesting. It's insightful. Didn't know that before. That's pretty cool. But all the other stuff is thrown in on top of that. So as I go through the book, I'm going to see which comes out more. Am I going to be able to learn more about the brain, or will I have to address the whole topic of atheism, which is obviously what is driving a lot of his motivation behind his writing, or the writing of his editors. So that's it for chapter 1. What else does he talk about? Oh, I just wanted to add one quote from it, which is, he said, this is a quote from page 8. He said, "A piece of your brain the size of a grain of sand would contain 100,000 neurons." Imagine, a piece of your brain the size of a grain of sand would contain 100,000 neurons, 2 million axons, which are like these connections onto neurons, and 1 billion synapses, which are the actual connections. But I'm not going to try and describe them. He's the neuroscientist, not me, right? A piece of your brain the size of a grain of sand would contain 100,000 neurons, 2 million axons, and 1 billion synapses, all talking to each other. So the number of possible brain states in terms of permutations and combinations that are possible in the brain exceeds the number of elementary particles in the universe. He said it, not me. So obviously the complexity of the brain is the most complex thing that we've ever discovered. The number of connections, the permutations and combinations of possible connections between all these different synapses and axons and neurons is essentially infinite, because it's just, billions and billions and billions of possible whatever. So there you go. Interesting stuff. I'm very surprised at how much atheism is front and center in the first chapter of the book, but we'll dig into it and we'll see if we can counter those arguments, or at least acknowledge them and explain them, how I've already gone through all the arguments of atheism and why I personally believe that they all fail. Very elementarily, they fail based on logic and false assumptions and all kinds of what I call just faulty thinking out of the gate. I don't expect this to be any different. So we'll go through it over the next couple of weeks. I don't know when I'll do my next video, maybe tomorrow or in a few days. And we'll try and take it in chunks. I don't think I'll do a video for each chapter because I'd be here forever. So I'll try and group them together, and I'll try and get through it as quick as I can so that I don't waste your time or my time. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you're enjoying our nice weather that we're having out here. And we'll talk to you again real soon, okay? Take care of yourself. Be good. Trust God. He's got everything in control. He loves you, and so do I. Have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.